I'm Pierre, he's Chris. We're here to talk about some of the guys you don't want in your lineup for week 8. That's right, it's time for busts of the week. So let's get into it, Chris. Who's somebody that you are fading?
Yeah, don't hate me, but I'm fading Tua this week. I know he's been great in the 2 games since he came back from injury, but it's Buffalo, and Buffalo's allowing the fewest passing yards on a per game basis. Buffalo coming off the bye. I mean, I can't find one thing here where I think, oh, that's a positive for the Dolphins and for Tua. I don't see how this is in any way a good fantasy game or even a good real life game for Tua this week. I know he's been great the last couple of weeks if you picked him up, which I did in one of my leagues. But I think this week, go to the waiver wire, try to find a better option if somebody's out there, because I think Tua is going to bust in week 8.
Yeah, hard to find any positives there. Just don't even get me started on this whole topic. I'm just going to move on. So my bust is going to be very surprising considering he just scored 3 touchdowns, had a monster game. But Mike Evans, as we know, is pretty much boom or bust. I mean, either he goes nuts and helps you win a week, or he lets you down and does nothing. Well, a lot of that actually correlates, surprisingly, to his home road split. So you wouldn't believe this, but all 7 touchdowns he scored this season have been at home. So this is something that we have to take a look at. And going against New Orleans this coming week, New Orleans is a pretty good defense, and we know they have Marshon Lattimore. Chris, you alluded to this, but Mike Evans has trouble with corners that are physical, like Marshon Lattimore, who has kind of owned him in his career at times. So I'm actually going to fade Mike Evans. Hard to just sit and completely bench him, but man, if you have a better option, you can go with it. All right, we're going to keep going with some busts. First, take a second, if you don't mind, hit that like button. We definitely appreciate it. And while you're at it, if you like what we do here, consider subscribing. All right, Chris, your turn. Give me another bust.
Well, I'm going to stick with the Buccaneers, and now I'm going to go to the running back, and that's Leonard Fournette. Look, Leonard Fournette's been really good the last 3 or 4 weeks. I know week 7 wasn't a great game, but he's getting the usage that we want from our running backs, right? He's getting the bulk of the carries, and he's even getting a good number of targets, even with Gio Bernard there. But it's the Saints in week 8, and one thing that Saints defense is elite at is stopping the run. I think it's going to be Brady throwing to Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown if he's healthy, and Gronk if he is healthy. So love Leonard Fournette. I think he's going to have a great rest of the season. He's a guy that's really hard to sit because he's getting the touches and he can always score a touchdown in this offense. I think you just got to temper expectations a little bit for Leonard Fournette in week 8.
Yeah, it's hard, when a team just comes off a huge win, 38 points, to start fading their players. But again, you got to look at the matchups here. Now, likewise, T. Higgins actually come off a pretty encouraging game. He didn't have a ton of yardage, but Higgins was targeted a ton. I think it was something crazy, like 15 targets. Of course, he's not catching all of those. And again, not putting up huge fantasy numbers. You can't like him in week 8, despite the fact he's going against the Jets, which sounds totally paradoxical. But look, here's the thing with the Jets. You don't need to pass on them, right? You just don't. You can run all day and all night on them. They will not need to pass a ton. Higgins will probably not get double-digit targets. He has become so dependent on target volume because he's only averaging 6 yards per target. He's not being as productive because he's being used on these shorter routes. And in a matchup where he's probably not going to see a ton of passes his way, yeah, I can actually bench Higgins against the Jets because statistically, it makes sense to do that. All right, we're going to go with some more busts here. First, let me also remind you, if you want to support us beyond just being a subscriber, you can consider becoming a patron. That's right, you can support us through Patreon. Check out the information in the description below. All right, let's keep going, Chris. Give me another bust.
Man, I feel like I pick on this guy every week, and I love the player. He's on my team. That's Antonio Gibson, but you got to be really, really, really worried about Antonio Gibson right now. Dealing with that shin injury, which, is it shin splints? Is it a fracture? We don't know, but we know it's affecting him. Going up against Denver, this is a very strong run defense in Denver. And for 2 straight weeks now, he has been out-snapped by J.D. McKissic. And it's not just because the football team is losing and in the 2-minute drill, because he's losing carries to J.D. McKissic as well, which wasn't happening early in the season. He's still not really getting targets. So really, he is absolutely 100% touchdown dependent at this point. If he doesn't score a touchdown, he's giving you almost nothing. I just don't see how you can trust Antonio Gibson in your week 8 lineups. There's very few guys I would start Antonio Gibson over as we head into week 8.
Seems like not that long ago we're talking about him as a breakout candidate, guy who could be a top 5 running back, and it's not happening. All right, you also shouldn't have much incentive to start Mac Jones. And look, again, coming off this big game, right, over 300 yards, couple touchdowns, Patriots offense looks great. Going against the Chargers, well, the Chargers are generous on the ground, and so we do like the running back. Of course, you gotta love Damien Harris. You can't like the passing game. The Chargers give up the 3rd fewest fantasy points to quarterbacks. Again, the Patriots offense you saw last week, I don't think you're going to see it this week, but especially with Jones. Again, this is a guy that you might consider streaming at quarterback if you're missing Lamar Jackson. Don't do it. Don't get fooled by last week's big performance. This matchup is going to be really tough for him. All right, man, I think you got a Jones of your own that you don't like.
Yeah, this one might be too easy, but it's Julio Jones. Had that great week in week 2, hasn't done anything since, missed a couple games with injury, came back, left the game with injury, came back, played the entire game in week 7, but he played less than 50% of the snaps. He's obviously not even close to 100%. And look, the Titans are the Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown show. And now that A.J. Brown is healthy and Derrick Henry is still Derrick Henry, there's just not a lot left for everybody else. And for a guy like Julio Jones, battling all kinds of injuries, playing less than 50% of the snaps, not only do I think you have to bench Julio Jones in week 8, I'm going to tell you right now, if there's better options on your waiver wire, you can drop Julio Jones. He doesn't even need to be rostered anymore at this point. So Julio Jones absolutely going to bust once again in week 8.
Yeah, how far the mighty have fallen. I mean, Julio Jones, Allen Robinson, Brandon Ayuk, guys that we thought were going to be monsters this year and just are not. Hopefully you start James Conner. He did reach the end zone as predicted last week. It's not going to happen this week. At least I don't think so, because he is so game script dependent. We see it all the time. Expecting to be a shootout on Thursday with the Packers and the Cardinals, but I don't think Conner's going to get too involved because they're going to have to go to the air. And again, you don't think that the game script is going to favor the Cardinals being able to run the ball as much as they would like. So you know what? I'm going to say go ahead and go back to the bench with Conner. You could probably find a better option somewhere else. Check out our boom videos or our must start RBs for better options. All right, that does it for this edition of Bust. Thanks for checking us out. As always, again, you want to get in on the conversation with us all week long. Join our Discord. Information also in the description below. You can join for free. Get a lot of helpful advice from not just us, but other members of the Endgame community. All right, as always, thanks for watching.